we're in the garage and there's a bike pump that's overturned. And I was like, hey guys, a quick family meeting. When you see something like this and you're walking by, it's always good to just kind of pick it up. And the oldest kid looks at me and he goes, when did you turn into mommy? Okay, so let's record the intro now.
So what did Milkless? Because I think we start with the name.
Two dads, we love our kids, but then we also need them to know that we're like pretty cool and it's not like a wimpy podcast. So, hey, hey, Milkless.
Hey, welcome. Hey,
Milkless. Call the audience, Milkless. What's up, Milkless? Matt and Max coming at you.
What if that's it? That's our first take. On this episode of Milkless, we're going to be talking about the role of humor in family life. This whole episode was kind of motivated by a study that just came out that blew our fucking minds. We'll get into that. We'll get into, what brands of humor land at various ages. And then, of course, just kind of what this looks like in each of our houses. Here we go.
All right, Matt, today we're talking about humor. A study just came out. We're going to round us as we're diving right at the beginning. There was a study July 17th, 2024, just a hop, skip, and a jump ago.
That's fresh.
Yeah. This one blew my cock right off. Okay. People who reported that their parents, adults, used humor. 50% of them said they had a good relationship with their parents, and 44% felt that their parents did a good job raising them.
So they're asking adults.
Yeah.
About their, growing up, were your parents funny, and then correlating that to good experience. Did they do a good job?
Yeah. Did they use humor? Whether they're dad jokes, if there's something on your shirt, tapping your nose.
Classic.
Whatever. 50% had a good relationship with the parents. 44% said that their parents did a good job raising them. For people who said that their parents did not use humor, there was a 2.9% reported good relationship with their parents. And 3.6...
Woof.
And thought that... And only thought that, and 3.6% of them thought that their parents did a good job.
That is rough.
This is like all over the internet. If you Google, parenting humor study, whatever, it came out July 17th, and it's insane. So there's also so many other studies that talk about how humor and children who laugh a lot or understand humor have, better social connections, higher social status. There's also been links to the more you laugh, like if you have a really deep belly laugh, that you release more T cells and your immune system is stronger. So humor is what we're talking about today. Matt, how do you want to get into? Because I have some developmental stuff. We can talk about some of the things we do. There's so much here. Let's try to sneak it into one episode. Could turn into two. What do we got?
Yeah, well, this one's definitely near and dear because, I would say that it is probably as or more important to you and I that this podcast be funny than that it be useful. We both love a good laugh. And I do think it's a big part of my family's life in a lot of different ways. So yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about. I think there's the different ways that your kids can be a part of the humor at different ages. I think that's really interesting to talk about. There's a million different ways to be funny, and some of them are really things that I think kids groove in on, and some of them are kind of hard on kids. You hear sarcasm talked about a lot in that way. The idea of this episode is not just be funnier. It's how has that looked for us in our houses? And how has that differed as the kids have gotten older? And
also, I think that we both maybe have different styles. And I think that you use razzing or ribbing or sarcasm really well. And I want to do more of it. So I think we got a lot to get into. But let's just start chronologically. Infants and toddlers, it's really tied to social interaction and perceiving how do you say that word? Incongruities?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Incongruousness?
No, not that.
Okay. They perceive things that are not the way that they're supposed to be.
Oh, like incongruities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that word. That's a big word for me.
It's a lot of syllables.
For such a small man. Yeah. So, so they also they like the poop jokes, slapstick, also just calling things by the wrong name, using things incorrectly, like wearing a sock on your head. A lot of that is just being silly.
It's pure silliness.
Yeah. But there's nothing better than when you can get a baby laughing, or a toddler.
Yeah. My just turned 2-year-old, this is her birthday this past week. is very funny, not with words, really. She will fart at the dinner table and then just get the smallest smile on her face and not move her head at all and just cut her eyes totally sideways toward my wife. That's the funniest. It's the funniest joke I've ever seen anyone tell. She's so fucking good. Anyways, she's starting to see the contours of what's funny. She's starting to figure it out, but it's all like pre-verbal. So it is big and broad. Like if I'm chasing her and she suddenly, cause I'll just chase her around the house cause she likes it. And she suddenly turns and like growls at me. And then I like jump and scream and run away. That is hilarious to her just because the thing that was getting chased suddenly turned around and hollered at the much bigger thing that then got so scared. It's rudimentary, but it's kind of like absurd and fun.
100%. Like that sort of thing. Also, you've said it before in a previous episode, like the outsized reaction or the doubter. Mm-hmm. Like if a kid draws something, no. Also, I find that kids like fake madness, fake angry dad.
Yes.
It's so sick. But like if they like stick their tongue out at me, I'll be like, oh, you, and I'll let them know it's fake. Like, oh, you better not do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that is not okay. I'm gonna, and then they do it, and I like huff and puff over to them and like tickle them.
Yeah.
They love that shit.
That is interesting because that's like so many of the jokes, so many things that we joke about, whether it's like sex or death or like, you know, a lot of the best jokes are really, really dark. It's actually hard to find a really funny joke that's not a little fucking twisted.
Yeah.
Humor is a way of playing with something that's uncomfortable for us and giving ourselves some power over it by laughing at it. So it makes total sense, the dad being mad. If you can play with that, it probably also makes it a little less scary when you are really mad because they have this experimentation with it. That's really cool.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, it also goes, we've both talked about this on the food episodes. I love to do the thing where if I can't get them to eat, again, this is like doing a dog and pony show to get them to have a single goddamn bite, but I'll make a bite, put it on their plate and just be like, do not eat this. This is reserved for dad. I will be very angry if you eat that bite. And I just turn away and then just like lose it. Like not actually loud, but like, are you kidding me? God, I'm starving here. And they love that they have that control to like make me mad and it's so funny or something.
And they kind of got one over on you too. Kids love getting one over on the tallies.
Also like letting them sneak up on you, you know, that type of stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The fake mad thing, as you're talking about that, I can picture my dad's fake mad face. My dad would pretend to be fake mad all the time, but he telegraphed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you would never mistake his fake mad face for his real mad face.
You better not.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and it gets to, I don't want to like jump the gun here, but people talk about sarcasm being a type of humor that kids really struggle with a lot. And I wonder if it's that sarcasm, like if you deliver it too straight, it's confusing for kids because they're still like deadpan humor is probably one of the last things to develop for a child. So whatever it is, it needs to be kind of broad. But we'll talk more about sarcasm later because I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, why not right now? Because let's move into school age kids. We can always come back to younger kids, but like, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds. Basically general guidance on what they like. You know, it's a little more sophisticated wordplay, riddles, jokes, more complex things like irony, hyperbole, and sarcasm. I think with sarcasm, to your point, you need to be really careful. Let's just jump to that really quick. I remember my dad always using sarcasm. And I was trying to think of how he used to razz us. And he used to like make fun of us a lot. Mm-hmm. And it was so funny. And I tried to think like, I don't really do it that often. I do this one thing that he does, which is a great entry point into making fun of your kids without hurting their feelings, is if you are positive with your making fun of them. So hear me out. Like,
yeah, give it to me.
Eating ice cream sundae, whipped cream on your cheek. My dad would always go, he'd stop the conversation. He'd be like, hey, everybody, listen, I just want to say, I want to congratulate Max. You know, Max is one of the smartest kids I know because he knows that the whipped cream, we don't have a lot of it. And so he saves whipped cream on his face because he's that smart to save some up near his eye. I don't know how he got it there, but that's how smart Max is, that he likes saving that whipped cream. And then everyone laughs at me, but he told everybody I was smart.
Yeah. It's interesting because even since before I was a parent, I remember it just being such commonly held wisdom that using sarcasm with kids is shitty to do. Like, I knew that. And did you see the most recent Inside Out movie, Inside Out 2?
Yeah.
There's that scene where there's sarcasm is an actual chasm and they're trying to shout across it, but because there's sarcasm involved, like they just miss each other's meanings. And I get that, because sarcasm as an adult, that's like a pretty evolved sense of humor and not something that your kid's going to be great at, probably. And it may really confuse them, because like with my 2-year-old, she can get often the inflection of comedy.
Yeah.
But she can't get the words. It's
because you're coming at it like this and wow, Bozo the clown.
Yeah. But I had this experience with my oldest one time where we were razzing each other. And there was sarcasm involved in razzing each other, but we were both laughing and we were both kind of poking fun at each other in a way that felt good and healthy, in a way that my wife and I do about the foibles about each other that drive us crazy. Our relationship is our best when we like are able to make a little fun of each other, right? Mm-hmm. So we were doing that. And then all of a sudden I thought of a really good zinger for my daughter, and I delivered it the way I would to you. I delivered it totally deadpan. Mm-hmm. And we'd been laughing and razzing for the last 3 minutes. And then I just delivered this zinger, which was really, if you'd been there, it was really funny. And she had been laughing, and suddenly she just goes, "Oh, that's not nice." And I was like, "Oh God, I'm sorry. So ultimately what I took from that is like, we were both in on the joke. And then suddenly I just like took it to this level where she wasn't really in on the joke. She was outside of it. And it was immediately not fun. And I've not gone back there since.
Well, I'd say like sarcasm is the wrong word, because sarcasm doesn't have to be ribbing or razzing. For example, sarcasm can be like my son, my 8-year-old started using it a lot. I think I told you this. He said something like, I'm going to make it up, but it's something like, I'm like, "Oh, you want a snack?" He's like, "No, I'm good. I had a rock sandwich on the walk over." Like not super funny, but like so deadpan.
Just deadpan.
And then I started playing with it. I'm like, "What mayo?" He's like, "No, dry, just bread and rocks." I'm like, "Interesting. How are the teeth?" He's like, "Fine. It's the stomach that really hurts from the rocks."
Have you all ever done that around your 4-year-old? Does she lose her fucking mind?
Well, she's like, wait, what? Rocks? Why rocks? So, but
what are you guys talking about?
So that's, I think, fun. It's the ribbing or the razzing, which is, it's the most dangerous game. But I think that ribbing or razzing is the most advanced form of social interaction among adults. If you can do that, it shows a level of intelligence, emotional intelligence, a level of trust, that I trust that this is going to land well and not hurt this person's feeling, that I understand how this person's going to receive it. It's like in level 75 of empathy.
Yeah.
Of being able to understand how it's going to land. And I don't do it that much. The hardest rib I'll do is the, "Hey, Matt's saving ice cream on his cheek." But you mentioned that one time, if your daughter is struggling on something, sometimes you'll tiptoe into this and you'll say, "Baby, you're good at a lot of things."
Yeah, dude. Well, and I use that.
That's like hard.
That's going a little hard in the paint. But it's also, so the first time I ever used that, and actually most of the times I've ever said that, is always about the same thing. So my daughter, like all children of 6 tender years, loses her shit all the time, all over our house. And like all the other 6-year-olds I know, is just fucking garbage at looking for stuff.
Yeah.
She'll just walk into a room and glance at, like, she'll walk in the TV room, look at the TV, not even look in the room and be like, "Well, they're not in here." And I felt the need when I was having to look for her things, and she really wasn't looking for her things, to call attention to that, because it's like, I don't mind helping you look, but you also need to put an effort, because this is your shit that you've misplaced. Mm-hmm. And so I could have said that and like had a conversation with her, or I could have just poked fun at the fact that she wasn't really trying to look for anything. And I feel like I have frequently used humor to me, in a softer way, approach things that I'd like my kids to work on. And primarily I'm talking about my oldest daughter, because like I didn't really start, my youngest 2. Mm-hmm. So I've only done this with my 6-year-old, but I do actually feel like in the same way within my marriage, we are able to safely and playfully prod at the things about our relationship that are imperfect. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have that opportunity with my kids as long as they're in on the joke.
Yeah. And they're not getting overwhelmed. Like I know a kid, like if they're really stressed on Legos, can't get it to fit. Like that's not the time for this ribbon. But like
you're good at a lot of things, kid.
Yeah. Smash. But
smash.
Like, with this, I could see it. Like especially if you use the technique of the whipped cream thing. Hey, you know what? You are like, I gotta tell you, you're incredible at so many things. Dance, painting, so good. Not good at finding things, huh?
Yeah.
I bet you I'll find this. My thing I say is a lot of times like, I bet you I can find it on a single breath hold. They'll be like, I looked everywhere. I'll like, watch this. And I'll hold my breath and I'll run to their room and I'll find it on a single breath hold.
Dude, that's the same joke. That's a different version of the same joke. Is like, I have to look for your shit all the time, but it at least reminds them to try. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. Single breath hold.
Something I just thought of, something that you mentioned when we were prepping for this episode. You mentioned like the importance of like inside jokes and bringbacks. And I just love that so much. I talked to my wife earlier and I was like, hey, so we're doing an episode on humor. Like, what's, like, what are the funny things we do? And she's just like, everything. We're always funny, man.
Yeah.
And that was funny in its own right. But I was like, what do we do? And then I remembered anytime I give her a compliment in front of everybody about her looks, like let's say we're going out to dinner and we're made up. I'll be like, guys, look how beautiful your mom is. The minute I say a compliment like that, she'll look over at me like a gremlin and hiss like a cat and just make herself so ugly. And it's just hilarious because it also kind of always startles everybody.
Yeah.
But that's like, it happens every time. And then she'll relax and be like, I'm kidding. Thank you so much. Like, oh, you're so nice, blah, blah, blah. But I like those inside jokes that you have.
Yeah. That is such a way. If you think about like, if you really work with people in the trenches, you start to have great in jokes because you just have so much shared knowledge. It's kind of like a testament to the level of intimacy that you can all have that joke. It's a total bond thing, man. And there's so much about family and young kids that it's like, you could laugh about it or you could cry about it. I think all of those jokes that we've talked about have significance. Playing at the edges of what's comfortable. Here's something that's uncomfortable about a family. So you married your wife and you still think she's really hot, but you're around your kids all the time. And sometimes you say it in front of them and she's kind of like, I don't know how to feel about it. So she hisses at you, but then she likes it that you still look at her that way. So you've basically like taken just a weird kind of uncomfortable part about family and made it into something that you're all a part of. And if you think of jokes and humor as essentially like play, I mean, we did that whole episode about play, right?
Yeah.
One of the big things with play is it allows you to like safely live in a world that is not the normal world. Like what happens if I do something that is going to make dad mad and I do it anyway and he keeps getting madder, but then he just comes and tickles me and it's all okay. All that stuff has so much significance and there is a choice to see it as funny and not uncomfortable or terrible.
Right. And the other thing that's really, really tough is like, I mean, there are some people who are just naturally, don't have humor in their lives. And this is probably hard for them. Sometimes I feel that way. And, everyone on the air here knows how funny I am if you listen to the show. But sometimes
what almost all funny people do is
tell everybody how funny they are.
They tell everybody how funny they are. You're like the Kanye West of funny podcast.
It's just a shtick because we started doing it on the ad. Now I feel embarrassed and I'm sweating and blushing. But so there's so much of the logic side of like getting shit done. Mm-hmm. Got to get the kids to do this. Got to get them to put their shoes on. We have dinner time. We got to do bedtime. There's so many things that need to happen. And humor can sometimes be, I see it sometimes as a luxury. Mm-hmm. This is why sometimes having those touchstones or those inside jokes, they just always come out.
Yeah, they can just lower the temperature so much. And I think maybe on an even more fundamental level, every culture in the world, humor is an important part of it. Humans have evolved. We evolved humor.
Yeah.
Right? Like if it weren't useful, it's funny because you talk about thinking of it as like a luxury. And I get that because it's not like efficient for getting shit done to be like goofing around. But like humans evolved humor and it stuck around. And to me, the main reason that I can think of for that is that it just creates cohesion within a group. And the numbers, I mean, what, 2.7% with no humor? We need it.
Yeah. Something I'm striving for is just more interactions where you're laughing with your child, whether you're the one making them laugh or not. So like, this is where it gets into, there's some off-color jokes, like there's some, not off-color, but some stuff about sex. But we just started watching Seinfeld with our 8 and 6-year-old.
Wow.
Our 4-year-old kind of watches, but she doesn't quite, not quite. She doesn't understand what's going on. But the 8 and 6-year-old can follow like the marine biologist episode where George is telling the story. The sea was angry that day, my friends.
Oh, the obstruction.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It like lost their mind, hysterically laughing.
Wow.
And now we're all like hysterically laughing. Kids love Kramer.
Kramer's broad.
It's good, clean stuff. They do talk about sex sometimes. There's no profanity. There's no violence. And a lot of times they'll use words like I'm master of my domain when they talk about not masturbating.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
It goes kind of over their head, but like, it's so funny. They're dying laughing and then talking about it all night at bedtime.
Wow.
Oh my God. Who wrote that? How did they make such a good story?
That's so interesting. Because it's like my first thought was when you said that you'd been watching Seinfeld with your kids, is like, oh man, that's really more for the parents. That's going to mostly be over their head. Because it's a sophisticated show. But the fact that they're like talking about it at bedtime means that they're at least getting enough of it and enjoying the experience of enjoying something with you enough that like it's great.
No, but also, no, they're getting these because I'm going on ChatGPT asking about like what would be good ones for kids and why. It's like 15 minutes of research. But if it's like Jerry has to wear the puffy shirt on the Today Show,
yeah,
because Kramer is dating someone who talks really quietly.
Oh, a quiet talker.
You're like, why is she talking so quietly? She's like, and then they agreed. Jerry agrees to wear the puffy shirt on the Today Show just because, like, they get that entire storyline.
Yeah.
They're losing it. This episode is brought to you by Milkless. We are self-funded, self-sponsored. Matt and Max, we're spending way too much time a week on this for your listening pleasure. So, if you want to help out, please visit our Patreon. Just kidding, we don't fucking do Patreon. We're not asking for any money. All we want is for you to text this to a friend. So, if you could pause the episode right now, think of someone who might benefit from Milkless. Maybe it's a dad you know, a mom you know, someone
Think of the shittiest father you know.
No, that shittiest father doesn't care enough to listen. But someone who maybe likes podcasts and, you know, the thought of a parenting podcast is like, oh my God, it's like so dry. You can tell them how funny I am and how Matt
also says things sometimes.
Yeah. You need a dictionary to understand half of the things he's saying because he likes to show his big vocabulary.
Oh my God.
So,
read a book, Max.
Anyway, what was I saying? So just pause the episode right now. Text a friend. It means so much to us, and you will ensure that we will continue making these episodes free of charge forever. Okay, so what are your thoughts on potty humor and like poop jokes? Because kids like that, and that level of humor, so to your point earlier, is kind of like their death, their sex, their taboo. Poop is such a taboo. They're probably afraid of poop a little bit, pooping their pants at school, blah, 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 that it's fun and interesting. Talked about it before that there was that one child psychologist who said that you could do butt talk time. And I've done this a couple times where I just say, yeah, go ahead. Like you got 30 seconds in the car, just say whatever you want. You know, then it kind of takes some of the power out of the words. One.
Do they drop F-bombs on you? I mean, they've heard it all at this point. Do they do they go hard?
Oh yeah. Like my 4-year-old where she's just like, are you sure? Is this okay? I'm like, yeah. She's like, idiot, stupid shit. And it's like, they're always like mishmashed together that they don't quite, but they're funny, you know, like.
I just picture her having this list in her brain of words she can't say. And she's like, okay, here we go. I'm going down it.
But it's also, this is what I think is interesting is like teaching kids that like, listen, maybe you don't want to go down this road and this isn't for all parents, but you know me and you know my sense of humor and it's sometimes can be a little blue.
A little brown.
You know, if somebody unleashes a really stinky fart, I like to like say how bad it is in a really funny way. Like, and I've now done it with the kids, and I can get them hysterically laughing. Like one time, one of my sons was like laying on top of me and like farted very close to my, and I'm like, oh, I can taste it. It's like the juice at the bottom of a dumpster. Just gnarly, nasty shit.
Yeah.
And I can just get them going. And then I think that is a fun thing to do. But then I know that the kids would never do this in front of a teacher.
Yeah. It is a little bit who cares to me. I feel like my whole life is butt talk time. I make those same kinds of jokes. And I think I can't resist a good fart joke. And when my 2-year-old farts at the table, like we all fucking die laughing because it's funny. Mm-hmm. It's funny. But I am in kind of this perpetual, like probably twice a day, I say to my daughter, no more butts for a little while. Cause it'll just go up the ladder and then just everything is like, and then that's his butthole. And I'm like, okay, just no, like give me an hour where you don't say anything like that. Please.
You know what? You know what's fun though? Cause our 4-year-old just recently was doing a lot of that. Like, oh yeah, stinky butt poop, is
yeah.
Making up new swear words. Like my little brother used to say muskrat. Oh, you little muskrat. And then my daughter made one up instead of chicken butt, chicken pull up.
Chicken pull up?
Chicken pull up, because
that's good.
Some kids wear pull ups.
Yeah, sure.
So she's like, a little chicken pull up over here. So, I mean, just to bring us back a little bit, let's go through the ages again. Infant and toddler humor, a lot of stuff with like bodily function, slapstick, calling things by the wrong name, school age kids, wordplay, riddles, jokes, but then also like irony, hyperbole.
Mm-hmm.
I think hyperbole is really good. Just outsized reactions.
Yeah.
But all in all, it's really just being silly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just silliness, and it's mostly pretty broad. It gets less and less broad, I guess, as they get older.
And then also, like, if somebody, let's say you haven't been funny with your kids, totally chill, happens. But to not be in that 2.9% where your kids fucking hate you in 20 years.
Jesus, such a cautionary number.
Tale. What if you create a different persona? Like I have this persona called the Giant, and the Giant will come and get you and whatever. Like you could make, if you're a very serious person, you could make a silly, like the silly guy is coming at you, and the silly guy does silly things. And that way you can keep your straight-faced, straight-laced, demeanor. But if you want to be silly mommy, then silly mommy comes out every once in a while. Beware. If you've
just dissociate a little bit, just create a shadow self alter ego for your kids' amusement.
But I think that's important. I think some people, let's say that their parents were not funny. They did not have humor in their life. They enjoy funny things, but there's no humorous interactions. Because listen, a lot of times you're so overworked, taking care of the kids. When do you have time to be that funny person if that's not your natural inclination?
Yeah. And I think you do, like, kind of more broadly, it's like, you got to find what is funny to both you and your kid. Because it was like when you were suggesting have like an alter ego that's kind of a big character, that makes a lot of sense for you. You are comfortable like performing and being silly in this great way. It's like unselfconscious. My wife is not that way. She's like, It is hard for her to just be like super goofy. She's very funny and she makes the kids laugh really hard, and she laughs really hard. She's got a great laugh. But like people are funny in really different ways. And I'm seeing that my kids are funny in really different ways. I think that's a huge part of this is like there is the making your kids laugh, but it's also giving your kids the opportunity to be funny. Ask them a lot of questions. Ask them what they're doing when they're just being weird. You know how like little kids will just randomly walk around the house like they're on a mission? Yeah. Just ask them what they're doing. And so often that answer is so funny.
Yeah, you're so right. And also, do not edit it out because I need to be punished for this. But I wish I could rescind that comment because, yeah, that big silly person is just me. It's like, so yeah, if you're not naturally big and silly, that would be very hard to do. So, yeah, I agree. Like, it's more create a space where the kids can kind of do stuff. And even if you're, serious with dinner and blah, 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 letting them explore stuff. Like I saw this one thing where this woman did a thing with her hand. You can't see it if you're listening, but she put her middle finger, like her fuck you finger out, like a fuck you situation. And the rest walked and looked like a little elephant walking. And the game was, this is a sniffer. So it's always sniffing you. and the kid has to stay extremely still. But the middle finger is kind of slightly tickling the neck, tickling the ear. And as long as you stay still, the sniffer will not tickle you. And it apparently works for calming kids down because they love it so much. But too, like that type of thing. It's like, if you are not a funny person and have little funny side things that you can do, like a staring contest. Now, parents, if you don't do this already, automatic win, typically a nose flare. If you can do a nose flare, it'll always...
It's a subtle nose flare. It's always the subtle ones to get them.
The nose flare will always win. But eventually then you can start trying to make silly faces and trying to make each other laugh. That's always really fun.
My daughter and I made faces at each other across a TCBY yesterday, which was fun because there were a lot of people around and we were just making ridiculous faces. That was fun.
Yeah.
Felt like cutting up.
Our middle kid just did this thing where I was like, yeah, there's some food on your mouth. And he's like, where? And as I went to point to it, he licked my finger and put the thing that, like, there was hummus on his cheek. He pushed the hummus into my finger. And if I wasn't in the right space, I would have like yelled at him for licking me.
Yeah.
But instead, we both, I thankfully was in the right headspace. We started hysterically laughing. And then I could see he was looking at me to see how hard to laugh. And I just like kept going. And I was like I could have stopped laughing or I could have kept going. And I just like kept going because he was laughing. And then we both were laughing together. And I don't think we've had a moment like that where we were both like hysterically laughing. And it's to your point, just letting your kids kind of sometimes be a silly kid and laugh with them. You know, that's kind of the money right there.
Yeah. And it's funny that like you were saying that if you'd been in the wrong space, that thing really would have pissed you off. And in the right space, you both died laughing. That's probably, there's some kind of truth in that, which is that like the things that are funny are also the things that can be frustrating. The things that are like humor is where you deal with the shit that's hard. And a lot of times you could come at the same situation looking at it as either very funny or very awful. Yeah.
My 8-year-old is just now almost 9. And he had like the best joke 2 or 3 days ago. We're in the garage and there's a bike pump that's overturned. And I was like, hey guys, a quick family meeting, just the 3 kids. When you see something like this and you're walking by, it's always good to just kind of pick it up. This is our house. We want to take pride in it. So we should just pick that up. Right? And then the middle kid goes and picks it up. And the oldest kid looks at me and he goes, when did you turn into mommy? Because she's always saying that. And I was like trying to get on board with, being a good co-parent. And I was feeling proud of myself for like, see, I'm just like my wife and I'm very responsible too. He's like, what, do you turn into mommy?
Oh my gosh.
So good.
Frankly, you sound exactly like my mother right now. What a burn. Yeah, that'll be fun, I think, as they get older and older. Do you think most parents and parents of young kids feel like life is funny? I feel like I do have that experience, that even though it's very hard, most of the people in my life also see it as pretty hilarious.
Not really. I more think it's hard and overwhelming than funny.
Just life?
Yeah, just like if I'm really overwhelmed, sometimes I'll maniacally laugh. Like I can't believe like a comedy of errors, like a wrench falls on my head and like Tom and Jerry. I step on a rake and then the kid punches me in the balls. And then at that point, I will laugh at the irony of how fucking hard it is.
I will say things and then laugh. Like, you can't wipe your butt on the dog's face. Like, there's just things that come out of your mouth and then you're like, oh my God, this is my life.
Yeah, there's funny stuff. But all in all, I feel like there's so much work to be done to raise kids when you don't have the village and you're alone with your partner that like humor can sometimes feel like a luxury, although I think it's incredibly important.
I've had to get more comfortable with it, like living right alongside conflict or fatigue or every other thing. It's like just that way in which parenting will jerk you around so much. There's this photo that pops up on our like little digital picture frame every once in a while. And it's me and my kid when she was 2. And it is the sweetest picture. We are leaning over, looking at each other, and our foreheads are almost touching, and we're both grinning. And I had always just seen that photo and loved it. And one day my wife was walking by, and she's like, I remember that picture. I took that picture. You remember what happened right after I took it? I was like, no. She's like, she slapped you in the face as hard as she could. And like, I do feel like those things just live so close to each other. Like that is a moment that was like incredibly sweet. And then also I'm sure really horrible because I'm sure I didn't react well. And looking back on it, it's very funny.
Yeah.
It just is all at the same time.
Our oldest kid, when he was 1.5 or 2, he goes, Dad, how'd you get so funny? Obviously the best thing someone could say to me. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. Maybe, well, my mom's pretty funny and maybe she taught me how to be funny. Do you want me to teach you how to be funny, son? He's like, no, I'm already funny.
Fuck yeah. Dude.
It's like he was not funny then, but I guess he was, like.
He was. That's a funny thing to say. It's also like, what a fucking cool dude. Because he's like, no, I got like, that's innate. I got my own thing going. That's so good.
I thought he was going to be like, yeah, Dad, show me.
Show me the way. You should ask him how he became funny. I'd be curious to know his answer.
Oh, maybe.
Like, because he is.
Yeah, maybe I'll ask him.
You know what he'll say? He'll be like, it's just mom's really funny. I think I got it all from her. Just to break your heart.
That would be the best. That would be the best, Brian.
Hey, buddy, Matt and the podcast want to know how you became so funny.
Do you want me to say that you taught me, or do you want me to tell the truth? This episode of Milkweed is brought to you by Violet Archer in the case of the Purple Martin. Thank you. Bye.